The kitchen air was stale, thick with the lingering scent of yesterday's scorched bacon and the dregs of cold coffee in the French press. Daniel hadn't bothered cleaning. He cradled his third cup of black coffee, the chipped ceramic mug warm against his palms, staring blankly at the dark liquid swirling inside. Outside, the dull suburban morning unfolded with mundane indifference. A neighbor's sprinkler hissing to life, the distant hum of commuter traffic. Inside, the silence stretched thin as a wire. Lena dropped into the chair across from him, not gently. The wooden legs scraped against the tile, a sound that set Daniel's teeth on edge. She didn't look at him at first, fussing instead with the belt of her silk robe, a ridiculously lavish thing he knew she'd bought just days ago. When she finally met his gaze, her expression wasn't guilt or regret. It was detached, clinical, like a surgeon about to deliver news he was expected to accept without protest. "Daniel," she began, her voice unnervingly steady, devoid of the hesitation he might have expected. "There's something you should know. I've been seeing someone." A pause, letting the words hang. Simple. Brutal. "It's Mark, my boss." Daniel didn't react immediately. He just watched her, trying to reconcile the woman across the table, the wife he'd shared a life with for 4 years, built fragile plans with, bickered over thermostat settings with this cold stranger dismantling their marriage with surgical precision. He felt a strange detachment, as if watching a scene play out on a screen. She continued, mistaking his silence for shock or surrender. "Look, I know this is sudden, but it's happening, and it doesn't have to change everything between us." She leaned forward slightly, the robe slipping just enough to reveal the curve of her collarbone. "I can make sure you're taken care of, Daniel. You won't be left wanting." The sheer audacity of it finally shattered the numbness. It wasn't even the affair that cut deepest, though that burned like acid. It was the delivery, the presumption, the way she reduced him to a household fixture requiring occasional upkeep. A dry, rasping sound escaped his throat, something between a laugh and the crack of something breaking inside him. He shook his head slowly, finally meeting her gaze. His eyes, usually calm, glinted with something new, hard. "Are you serious, Lena?" His voice was low, rough. "You sit there, tell me you're sleeping with your boss, and then offer me, what? Scheduled maintenance like I'm some neglected appliance?" He shoved his chair back, the legs shrieking against the floor, a raw, ugly sound that matched the fury coiling in his gut. "Get yourself a lawyer, Lena. Find the most ruthless shark you can. Because this is done." Lena's composure faltered. Surprise flickered across her face, quickly replaced by something colder. She hadn't expected this. She'd expected tears, shouting, eventual surrender. She'd always seen him as pliable, predictable, safe. "Don't you dare walk away from me, Daniel," she hissed, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. She leaned in, eyes narrowing, the detached mask replaced by something predatory. "Sit down." He paused halfway out of his chair, locking eyes with her. The air between them crackled. "You think this is your call to make?" A smug, icy smile touched her lips, chilling him more than any outburst could have. "You think you can just file for divorce and waltz off? Oh, Danny boy, you really don't know who you married, do you?" He waited, silent. "You try to leave me like this," she murmured, her voice barely audible but laced with certainty, "and I'll destroy you. Understand? I'll go to the police. Captain Reynolds plays tennis with my uncle every weekend. I'll tell them you hit me, that you've been abusive for months, that you threatened me today." Her eyes bored into his, searching for fear. "Who do you think they'll believe, Daniel? Me, respected lawyer, charity board member, or you? The quiet IT guy nobody notices? The man with, let's just say, a past that might raise eyebrows if someone dug deep enough?" The implications settled between them, heavy as lead. His past wasn't spotless, old shadows he'd thought buried. She tilted her head, the picture of calculated malice. You'll lose everything, your reputation, your job, your friends. You'll have nothing, not a penny, not a shred of dignity. You'll be untouchable. She let the silence stretch, watching him absorb the poison. So here's the deal. You stay, you play your part, you keep your mouth shut about Mark, about everything, or I burn your life to the ground. Your choice. Daniel sank back into his chair, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. This wasn't his wife. This was someone else. Someone ruthless, willing to annihilate him without hesitation. Lena watched, smugness returning. She leaned back, arms crossed, the victor surveying her spoils. Oh, and one more thing, she added, her tone sickly sweet. Mark wants to meet you. He's coming over tomorrow, 7 p.m. sharp. Daniel stared. You're bringing him here? You heard me, she snapped, the sweetness vanishing. He thinks we should clear the air, establish the new dynamic. Her mocking smile returned. Be polite, Daniel. Offer him a drink. Maybe chat about sports or whatever it is men like you talk about. The subtext was clear. Men like you. The betas, the losers. Know your place. Lena, Daniel said, his voice dangerously quiet. Are you sure this is the game you want to play? Threatening me? Parading him in here? Because I can, Daniel, she replied, her voice steel. This is my life now. You just live in it. And if you want to keep anything at all, you'll do exactly as I say. She stood abruptly, the silk robe swirling around her. 7 o'clock, don't be late. As she walked away, leaving him in the suffocating silence, Daniel slowly picked up his coffee mug. He didn't drink. He just stared into the blackness, his reflection warped on the surface. The dread was still there, but beneath it, something else hardened. Cold, unyielding resolve. She thought she held all the cards. Thought she'd broken him. She had no idea. This wasn't the end of a marriage. It was the start of a war, and he didn't plan on losing. The next evening, the living room was thick with tension, stale cigarette smoke. Daniel had taken up the habit again that afternoon, a silent rebellion against Lena's meticulously controlled life and the sharp bite of cheap bourbon. He sat slumped in his armchair, a half-empty glass of whiskey leaving a ring on the scratched oak-side table. He wasn't steeling himself. He was simmering, waiting. He'd spent the day making calls, quiet conversations with voices from a past he'd tried to leave behind. Preparations had been made, contingencies set. The front door creaked open, followed by Lena's voice. Too bright, too forced. Mark, sweetheart, come in. Make yourself at home. Daniel took a slow sip from his glass, the liquor burning down his throat. He didn't turn as they entered. Lena's fingers curled possessively around Mark's arm, guiding him like a show pony. When Daniel finally looked, the absurdity of it hit him like a punch to the gut. This was the corporate titan who'd supposedly swept Lena off her feet? The man was slight, barely 5 feet 6 inches tall, with a soft belly straining against an overpriced dress shirt, his thinning hair combed in a desperate attempt to hide a receding hairline. He looked less like a powerhouse executive and more like a middle manager who'd gotten lucky. A rough chuckle escaped Daniel's lips, low and humorless. Not amusement, contempt. He let his gaze drag slowly over Mark's frame, then shook his head. This? Daniel gestured lazily with his glass, ice clinking. This is the upgrade, Lena. Another sip, savoring the flush creeping up Mark's neck. Christ, guy looks like he'd blow over in a stiff wind. Lena's smile tightened, her eyes flashing. Daniel, shut your mouth, she hissed. Mark is confident, ambitious, everything you're not. Right, Daniel drawled, leaning back further, radiating calm. If this is your idea of an alpha, Lena, maybe I've been giving you too much credit all along. He shifted his focus to Mark, who was glancing at Lena like a kid waiting for his mom to scold the bully. "Tell me, Mark," Daniel continued, voice smooth as poisoned honey. "How's it feel? Swanning into my house? Planning to screw my wife in my bed? That make you feel like a big man?" Mark's face reddened, anger and embarrassment warring. He puffed out his chest. "Listen, buddy." "Enough, Daniel," Lena snapped, stepping slightly in front of Mark. "I told you to be civil." "Civil?" Daniel scoffed. "You bring this gnome into my home after telling me you're going to gut me, and you want civil. Did you forget to take your meds?" He locked onto Mark again. "So the plan's what? You two ride off into the sunset, take everything I've got, leave me with nothing? That about the size of it?" Mark, emboldened by Lena's defense, straightened. "Exactly. You're getting nothing. Lena deserves better, and I'm making sure she gets it. We'll take the house, the savings, garnish your paycheck. You'll be paying for this mistake for years." He took a step forward, trying to loom and failing. "And yeah," he added, smirking, "tonight after you slink off, I'm taking her upstairs to your bed, and there's nothing you can do about it." Daniel just stared. Then, slowly, he smiled. "The house," he said, voice dangerously soft. "You think you're taking this house?" He chuckled. "Mark, you poor bastard. This place isn't mine. Never was. Belonged to my grandfather. It's in a trust. Untouchable. By gold-digging homewreckers and their pet trolls." Mark's smirk faltered. He shot a glance at Lena, who looked equally blindsided. "And that salary you're planning to garnish?" Daniel took another sip. "I quit this morning, effective immediately." "You what?" Lena gasped. Mark sputtered. "You can't just—" "I did," Daniel cut in. "So let's recap. No house, no job, no income to bleed. Your grand plan just went up in smoke, didn't it?" He watched the realization dawn on their faces. Lena's fury, Mark's panic. The first flicker of real satisfaction in weeks warmed his chest. "So, Mark," Daniel murmured, setting his glass down with deliberate care, "tell me again, what exactly are you taking from me? Because from where I'm sitting, you walked in here with nothing, and you're leaving with less." Mark, cornered and humiliated, defaulted to playground bravado. "You think you're so smart? I'm the alpha here. And right now, I say I'm taking Lena upstairs." He leaned in, sneering. "Still nothing you can do." Then, impulsively, he swung. The slap cracked through the room. Daniel didn't flinch. He just touched his cheek where the red mark bloomed, then smiled, a predator finally unleashed. "Mark," he said, voice eerily calm as he set his whiskey down, "I warned you." He stood, unfolding from the chair with a lethal grace Mark hadn't expected. "Get out of my house. Now." Mark, drunk on his own delusion, laughed. "Make me. Guys like you, all bark. I'll have you in cuffs before you—" Daniel's fist snapped out. It wasn't a wild swing. It was precise, brutal. It connected with Mark's jaw with a sickening crunch. Mark staggered back, blood trickling from his lip. Before he could react, Daniel drove a fist into his gut, doubling him over with a wheeze. Daniel grabbed a handful of Mark's overpriced shirt, yanking him upright. "You think you're tough?" Daniel snarled, each word punctuated by another blow. Mark's nose broke with a wet snap. "Real men don't steal lives." A rib cracked under a vicious hook. "Real men don't slink into another man's home like rats." A final right cross sent Mark crashing into the wall. "And they sure as hell don't hit someone unless they're ready for what comes next." Mark slid to the floor, gasping. Daniel stepped back, breathing steady. "You're nothing, Mark," he said, voice icy. "Just a pathetic little man who picked the wrong fight." Lena screamed. "Daniel, stop!" She lunged, but before she could reach him, a figure moved from the hallway shadows. Tall, wiry, Her dark hair cropped short, she intercepted Lena mid-lunge, twisting her arms behind her back with practiced ease. "Let me go!" Lena shrieked, thrashing. "Not happening," Rosa said flatly. With a brutal efficiency, she forced Lena face first onto the carpet beside the whimpering Mark. 2 sharp strikes, not fists, but precise pressure point blows, left Lena gasping, immobilized. Daniel nodded at Rosa. Everything was going to plan. He grabbed Mark by the collar, dragging him toward the front door. Mark's polished loafers scraped uselessly against the hardwood. Where are you taking me?" Mark stammered. "Showtime," Daniel said grimly. He hauled Mark onto the porch, the neighbors' lights casting long shadows. Propping him against the oak tree by the curb, Daniel pulled out his phone and hit record. "Smile for the camera, Mark." Mark groaned, turning his head away. Daniel grabbed his chin, forcing him to face the lens. "Tell everyone what happens when you steal another man's life." Then, leaving Mark slumped against the tree, Daniel strode to the curb where Mark's Audi, a pretentious, overpriced sedan, was parked. In the back seat, a ludicrously elaborate gift basket. Mark had brought champagne. Daniel yanked it out, walked back, and smashed it into Mark's face. Glass shattered. Foam sprayed. Mark sputtered, drenched and bleeding. From his truck, Daniel grabbed a crowbar. The Audi's windshield exploded under the first swing. The headlights died under the second. The hood crumpled under the third. Methodically, Daniel dismantled the car, windows, mirrors, taillights, each impact echoing through the quiet street. Finally, he tossed the crowbar aside and looked down at Mark, soaked in champagne, blood, and broken glass. Then he glanced back at the house where Rosa had Lena under control. Sirens wailed in the distance. Right on schedule. Later, at the hospital, Mark, groggy with painkillers, tried to press charges. The officer, a grizzled sergeant named Hendricks, listened, then leaned in. "You know who Daniel is? Really know him?" Mark blinked. "He's just some IT guy." Hendricks chuckled. "IT guy? Sure now. But Daniel? He used to ride with the Iron Reaper's MC May. Not some prospect. Full patch. The kind of men who don't file police reports. They file you." He dropped his voice. "You push this. It's not just Daniel you're dealing with. It's every Reaper in the state. You think a restraining order stops a dozen bikers from paying you a visit? Think real hard. Is she worth ending up in a ditch?" Mark paled. "No charges," he croaked. I fell." Meanwhile, Lena, less injured but shattered, tried spinning her tale of abuse, but her story collapsed when Mark refused to back her. When he was wheeled past her room, he hissed, "Drop it, Lena. He's not who you think." Weeks later, Daniel was driving his F-150 when he spotted them, a rusted-out Honda Civic puttering ahead, Lena in the passenger seat, Mark hunched over the wheel. He accelerated, tapping their bumper. The Civic swerved. Daniel pulled alongside. Lena stared, terrified. Mark white-knuckled the wheel, refusing to look. Daniel grinned. Then he forced them onto the shoulder. He climbed out, walked to their car, and tossed an empty beer bottle onto their roof. "Get out of my way," he said. "Losers." Then he drove off, the roar of his engine drowning out their silence. The road ahead was clear.